Well, hello.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Yes, and happy New Year. It's our first episode in 2026.
2026. Are
Yeah.
you getting hit by Wintergeddon like
Oh,
everybody else in the Midwest is?
yes, winter is coming, as they say,
Yep.
or in Game of Thrones. And yeah, I don't know. Latest predictions here is 12 to 18 inches over the weekend.
Yeah.
What about your area?
Well, it's snowing now. We're gonna get cold, but I was supposed to go to Chicago. I was supposed to be in Chicago today,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
saw Chicago was like supposed to. They're expected -40 and just a boatload of ice. And I don't mind the cold, Nick, but -40, no, just no.
That sounds like Hoth or something. I don't know. That's whew, yeah, it's supposed to be very cold here, but not. I don't even know how to compute -40.
Yeah.
That's no good.
Yeah.
But
Now
yeah,
it's going to
so-
be fun when we bring our guest on. He's probably going to just laugh at us and -40.
Yeah.
What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah,
We're still
yeah.
wearing T-shirts at -40.
Mm-hmm. So without further ado, let's bring in our guest. Cote, how you doing?
I'm great. You know, it doesn't actually get that cold here.
No,
There was a lot of snow, but it was cold. It's not -40.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's all you can say is at some point there's just you're no longer measuring it. You're it's pretty goddamn cold.
Yeah. There's tons of snow, and it's not a place here in the Netherlands that I guess they don't get a lot of snow all at once frequently. So it was kind of shut down the whole place, which is nice. You know, snow days. Well, snow days don't mean so much if you work remotely, but still, it's you get the feel of it. It's kind of nice.
Yeah. And the panic buying at the grocery and everything is out of stock already.
Yeah, they were out of sliced bread. They just
Oh,
had
no.
they had weird bread, but not sliced bread.
Yeah.
Well, I saw pictures of Texas. They're expecting 2 inches. They cleared every grocery store out. Texas is like, we ain't used to snow.
Yeah.
Not at all.
It's the
great.
apocalypse here.
After working for a retailer, one of the primary grocery retailers in the United States for quite some time, it's great for the sales. These storms, let's just say, great for making those quarterly numbers. Let's say that for sure. But anyway, as we all brace for being frozen and snowed in for quite some time, I guess it's a great time to listen to this episode and talk about future predictions for it's 2026. We're a podcast. We haven't done a future show yet, so we've got our expert futures analyst on, and we can talk about the current state of things and where we think things are going to go. And I grabbed the one of the headlines of kind of popping up is that it seems like over the winter break, people woke up across the world that Claude-Pilled is this kind of amazing tool, and it's really kind of ramped up. And I saw like an article in the Wall Street Journal saying everyone's getting Claude-Pilled. So now we're in this Claude-Pilled reality. What does that mean for enterprise IT development platforms? I think a lot of even more so, platforms becoming more and more relevant as the amount of code software being able to be created is exploding. So that's kind of my thought for today's show. And happy to ramble on wherever we want to go. But I think
we have the seer with us. The seer,
yes,
he knows all. He's going to tell us exactly where we're going so everybody can get prepared.
Amazing. I hope you two can go give me a LinkedIn endorsement after this for searing.
Yeah. For searing. Absolutely. Seer master.
That's right. I think you're right, Nick. I think I don't read the Wall Street Journal because I don't have an account. But if they're all over Claude, I mean, they did come out with Claude Cowork Pilot Code Codex.
Yes.
And so there's probably a considerable PR campaign around that, which is fine. But yeah, I think I've used that a little bit. The Cowork thing. It's just like Claude Code, except it's been denerded, right? Like it actually like makes sense and doesn't show you stuff. And I think also the like as I'm sure you two and other people have seen, I think maybe over the past 3 months, there's been a lot of posts that are, here's the astounding projects I've been working on. It's always Claude Code they work on.
Yep.
Like there was one by Jason Hoffman, you know, who was the CEO of Joyent and other stuff. So, you know, not just some dolphin pod swimming non-technical person. And he was saying, like, I made a dojo, which is to say martial arts management app, in like a month or something. And he had a good report of, like, I'm going to assume that it's fine, the app, but he had a good comparison of time and costs. And he basically, like, you know, did it all in a month instead of, like, let's say 12 months, and obviously no programmers. So, you know, and including the hosting that I paid for and his tokens and stuff, he figured it was like, I'm going to use his figure, which is crazy. But he was like, this is like 99.8% cheaper than if I didn't have this. And so I think, you know, that's just the latest story like that I can remember. But there's been a lot of stories about, like, I've actually been doing app development, and it's been successful enough that people are going over all sorts of methods of how to do it with, like, you know, your multi agents. And I haven't gotten around to reading that Gastown thing. Someone referenced the other day, and I went to it again, and I scrolled to it, and I was like, ooh, maybe next December break I'll put in some time to read through that. But, you know, you've got all these different methods of basically managing all of that coding stuff. And so, yeah, I don't have any proof of this except all of that anecdata. But I think at this point, those of us who just don't hate AI, it's, you know, who don't like the aesthetic of it, we should probably just be like, yep, you can code with AI. It'll be fine eventually. But it's fine enough now to, like, start using it and figuring out. And I was thinking earlier today, of course it has errors and makes things, but I think you always have to make sure to not, with any technology. I'm sure when, you know, the Oracle database came out in the 80s, and then when, was it PeopleSoft? Like all those, you know, Siebel and PeopleSoft and SAP were doing ERP stuff. The same criticism came about, but, like, you can't really judge these technologies based on perfection. You've got to just use humans as the baseline. So, like, maybe programming has changed since I stopped doing it professionally in 2005, but people still screw up all the time. And so, like, as long as what you're getting from this code generation stuff is as good as what a human would do, you know, I don't know the difference between means and medians and standard derivation and Monte Carlo simulations or whatever. But, like, you know, within some reasonableness, it's sort of like, well, yes, it works. And indeed, if you can, like, do it as good as a human, then you have at least a companion for a human. And, you know, programmers need more companions usually. And so it seems great. And then if it's even like 5%, 10%, 15% better, then that's huge. I mean, those small little productivities, I don't really know what that word means always, but I'm just going to say better increments, doing things better are significant. So
I'm glad you said that.
That seems like what we got there.
I'm absolutely glad you said that, because that's one of my frustrations when out there talking AI is people say, well, yeah, but it makes so many mistakes. Show me a human that does it, right?
Yeah.
So what are you setting as your goalpost here? And then when we talk about better, you know, there's a lot of different ways you can measure better. Is it error free? You know, no. Can it do it faster? Well, absolutely it can. It can type faster than humans. Now, you know, what kind of tech debt are we getting? What kind of, you know, how hard is it going to be for somebody to come in after the fact and do that? You know, I don't know, but let's be honest. AI is a part of what we're doing now. It just is. If you're the one of those that are saying, well, this will never take off, you're absolutely going to get left behind, in my opinion. Whether you use it for code generation, you use it for documentation, it doesn't matter. But AI is now a part of the SDLC. It just is.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too is about starting to work at stuff that you'll just never get to. I guess, like, from a personal perspective, I signed up for Claude, the $100 plan.
Whoa!
Yeah, I know, I went crazy. There was a $200 plan when I saw, like, it was like max,
Ultra
plus,
max.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
Ultra max extreme.
Yeah, and then before I run out of credits or whatever. So, and I probably didn't need that, but I was like, yeah, why not? Let's go max, right? Marketing. So I did that, and I was like, hey, you know, like, I had this personal blog that I started a couple years ago, and I just used some WordPress template. I went to some hosted WordPress thing. I wasn't really, like, happy. Like it wasn't like what I exactly wanted, but I didn't have enough time to like, craft it myself. And I was just like, I just wanted some click, 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 go, get some blog going because I just wanted to host some blog content, right? And then I was like, man, I really wanted to like update that into this fancy one of these new fancy, all like static, really good looking HTML frameworks because I don't really need WordPress and all that stuff. And I'm just like, Claude, like, here's my blog, like just make this in some modern framework, and like I don't want to use WordPress. And oh, by the way, make it ready for Cloud Foundry, which is Cloud Foundry can run static websites pretty well. So, and it's just like within like a couple of hours, just like prompting it and everything. It's basically ripped all of my blogs, copied all of the content, all of the images, recreated them all, and like I'm basically ready to go. And now I was like, wow, this is something that I would have never done. Like I hadn't even looked at like before in the past. I was like, I know there's like WordPress to like static site generator things that you can like copy and paste and run all these like scripts and code to try to like get this, this result that I wanted. But I just never had the time or energy to like actually go through that, even if it was like partially automated for me. But this was just like, I was like, man, this is just, I guess this is when, I became Claude-Pilled or whatever. But I'd used a lot of the other, AI tools. Obviously, I have a lot of AI stuff running in the Coon Labs here. But it's I could just see this like, just having this constant thing of agents running.
Yep.
Of just there's like these 10 tasks that I want to do that I'm never going to have time myself to do, but I can like, I can check in every once in a while on them and give them direction and have them go their way and then come back and like, or like, I guess people like maybe the workflows are like, you'll get like Slack notifications when an agent's ready for you to like, waiting for human intervention type of thing. I don't know. Like, maybe that's the workflow for the new development flow. I don't know. We just have all of these agents running and you just manage them, so to speak. But that being said, like you do like, because I've been in like the IT industry and have done some development and things like that, like there are certain things that I'm like, make this like tag different, or like certain things that like even the non-tech person maybe would struggle with a little bit more because they don't know like the underlying, like what's actually happening, so to speak. So I don't know, maybe that's even as they progress more, than like you don't even need to be technical at all. But I still think you need to have like, maybe this is just like, again, everyone becomes a 100x developer if you were a developer before. I don't know.
Well, but I don't know that 100x developer is right. But I do know that what AI is doing for us is two things. First is for the technical people, it's absolutely parallelizing work, right? That is where I think the superpower is now I can do 5, 6, 10 different things at the same time using AI as a pair programmer, which means it's going to take my output better. The second part, and we're seeing this, I don't know about you guys, but we're seeing a lot of companies now saying, hey, we've got a lot of really smart engineers. We got a lot of really smart people that have no idea about software development, but we want to get stuff out of their brain and into a program. And that's where AI is helping, because it's not putting undue burden on the software teams. People are able to go out and do exactly what you did with your website. They're able to, develop these websites, or these applications that run even in the enterprise. And we're seeing that this change from, you don't need to be a software developer, but we're starting to see spec-driven development become higher in priority, where now people are just writing the specs, they're writing the architecture out, giving that to AI and letting AI build. And that's huge. That's absolutely huge.
Yeah. And I think that's just going to keep getting, I think, bigger and bigger. And like, again, we get into the platform talk of just having a place to run the things that are created and not really worry about running them, so to speak, or minimalizing that. Getting somewhere it just runs and then moving on type of thing, I think would be really like, I don't know, maybe I think we're seeing that too. Like obviously within the Tanzu space, you see it kind of on the consumer side where you have these things like Lovable and Replit pop up, where like basically like, I guess consumer like app platforms type of thing. I don't know if you're seeing that on your space or not, but I think maybe that's where software development goes almost. I don't know, but.
Well, I think a lot of what y'all are bringing up is like working on the usability, as we used to say, or the user experience. Remember, people were all like, you shouldn't say the word user because they're people. But user experience is a good phrase, or customer experience. And I think there's two things there. Like one, like the first you were mentioning, Nick, is like, and I was joking about this, is like, if you look at, I mean, to use Claude-Pilled, you've got to go to a terminal, and it's like you're logging into a BBS with really great ANSI art and everything. And
which is fantastic, by the way.
Yeah,
I love the ANSI art.
Yeah. And now I've only used Claude Cowork once to have it organize my D&D play logs. Did a great job. But it is like, I think it's at least my limited experience. Like, it's an example of like, all right, let's think about the user experience of using, to use the phrase, agentic AI, right? Because that's really what the Claude-Pilled stuff is. And thus far, it's mostly been like, unless you hide it behind like a fit for purpose application, like, an application that does an exact thing and you're kind of hiding the AI behind it. Like it's using something like Claude-Pilled or other things is, I mean, let alone like knowing how to write a skill and where to upload it and all these things, like is not acceptable for normal people. Just like, if all of a sudden like a big forklift drove up in front of my house and it was like, hey, Cote, go do that, I'd be like, what? I don't know what all these things do. But I think, that would be probably something over the next year we'll see. Like, we'll see if these goofy pins or whatever get like, PIN get released. But like, really what's interesting in this angle, I think, is that there's not, the evolution of the models seems super boring at the moment. Like, every time some new model comes out, there's some strange chart updated, and I look at it and I'm like, I assume this is good. I have no idea what is going on here. So like, the model itself doesn't really seem as important at the moment, probably for this year, as like the software that you write around it, the application that you have. So it's like easier to figure out for a broader audience and everything, right? And then, the second thing that of course we care about, that you mentioned is, I think I've been writing up some stuff. I put something on my weblog on the World Wide Web about this today, where like, I don't think enough people are talking about like, okay, so if we're we'll always use a bank as an example. We're a bank and we support, let's say we're a mid-sized large banks. We support like 4,000 applications. And we have all the developers to do that and the people who operate it. And now what we have is we have all these non-developers making applications and also developers doing more work. So now we have 40,000 applications or 10,000 applications or 20,000. Now, I've never actually run a platform, but I think if you did that over the course of, let's say, 6, 8, maybe even 12 months, just the servers would melt, right? Like it'd probably be difficult to just like provision and rack and stack and configure and do all the YAML for all of that. So like, now there's like, you can kind of feel on the, if things go the way us enthusiasts thinks, like there's going to be this flood of applications that are like, as y'all would know, first you're going to have to deploy them, and then you're going to have to manage them, and then you're going to have to like do all the stuff ongoing that you need, and then probably multiple times a day or maybe multiple times a week, like there's going to be updates that you need to do, which is going to be just like madness, and unless you have something in place that can handle that kind of situation.
Oh, I mean, yeah. There's also, kind of looking at the side point of that is the meltdown of servers, but look at what's just taken to run AI to get some of these applications out there in the first place, right? Yeah. I mean, that's going to be a counterpoint. But I think that you're going to start seeing, this is 2026 and beyond is going to be the wealth of ideas, people putting out applications because they can. It's like the .com all over again. A lot of these things are going to come to the top. Some of them will be useful to corporations and people. Others are going to just go to the wayside. But, what are people getting the value out of it? Even if it's not an application that necessarily needs to be hosted, I would say there's still benefit there because now people can go in and automate parts of their daily life that they weren't able to do before. And you don't need to run those on servers necessarily. You can run those, on a machine. And I do think we need to talk about what AI means to the local machine. But you're going to see people do things. You created your Dungeons and Dragons app, right? Your D&D app. That was something that was personal to you. Me, I had a budgeting that I've used, an Excel spreadsheet I've used for the last 10 years to keep track of all my household finances. I sat down, 2 weekends ago and said, well, there's got to be an easier way to do this. And I used AI to create me an actual Mac app to do that. Do I plan on releasing that? No, absolutely not. But it makes my life easier. And so I think we're going to see a lot of that stuff coming out in 2026 as well.
Right. And that's the other, thinking in a business, a large organization, let's call it an enterprise context. There's tons of applications like you just described. They're Excel-based applications, or worse, they're PowerPoint-based applications. Like you don't even realize that there's a latent application in there. It's just manually being done by people clicking on PowerPoint, going to a meeting, and people will even collect notes in PowerPoint, and then that becomes you've seen these PowerPoint decks that are they have a slide for every meeting, and that's the official living document of basically the business process that the team is running, which is delightful. I guess. But there's all sorts of applications like that are exactly like the one you're saying, Nikki. That's just if someone has just an inkling of why don't you make me an application that does that? All of a sudden you have something that's way beyond just using VBA and Excel or something. There's actually these, I don't know, you could call them line of business applications or small applications, and those, it's a good point. You could run those locally on the desktop. Then it just comes down to how you want to manage stuff. Or not the user. The user would like to manage stuff by not caring, but how the organization wants to manage it. And then, this overall increase in the footprint of apps that you have is both thrilling because now you've got apps which are usually better than people updating some PowerPoint slide. But then there is also the management increase for it. But it's that feels like what would be happening over very, very soon once the kind of user experience is ironed out.
Well, and I think it's going to be the full prompt. In my past life, and I think we've all probably seen it, there's this big wave of no code, low code app development where you would give the business a UI, basically a drag and drop thing to make web apps, right? And there are multiple different takes at that. I don't think any of them ever were super successful, right? Or
Sure.
Some of them you may have gotten here and there, but then you always have random pockets of it.
There's always some nuanced conversation to have about low code stuff, but I don't know. Not really.
You could get it to a certain point, but then if you wanted to take it in, let's say an enterprise, and it's now you need to integrate it with all these other things to make it useful. That's where it kind of fell apart, right? It's just now you actually need some developers because then you got to write some integrations and things. But maybe maybe this is where this development, these AI driven development platforms or whatever we call them, is kind of the next evolution of that, where you actually can get you have that kind of spec driven development or business side development, but it's an actually able to say, all right, now you're set up to here are your enterprise standards from this platform that it knows what it can use and provision and things, and it also knows how to integrate with other apps and things like that. So maybe that is the full promise of that, or a better promise. But then obviously, what is that going to do on the back end? Are we going to see massive just enterprise growth where hey, I had an idea and now it's an app, and we may have 2 users that use it 3 times a year, but it's still useful then,
to blue sky solution here a little bit, right? I struggle to use pivot tables in Excel because I don't really, I've tried, maybe I haven't tried hard enough. That's my Gen X pedagogical upbringing is I should try harder. That's the problem. It's me. But I can never really figure out how Excel thinks when it comes to pivot tables. And so if you imagine that cognitive difficulty, and then even if you go to I don't think, well, that was going to sound bad. I don't like to think negatively about low code platforms too much because I don't know enough about them, but here I go. To do low code stuff or rad stuff in the past, you still needed to have like a concept of applications and like what they do in data and stuff. So using that Excel example, like instead of having to learn how a pivot table works, I could just use like some code thing and be like, this is what I want, and then I'll have it. Right. Like I don't even have to think and understand how to, I don't really have to know how to use a tool for better or worse. I just type. And then, I mean, I think that gets to the usability angle is that, and you see this with Claude, right? And you know, some people talk about this, but one of the, I don't remember if ChatGPT does this, but something really interesting Claude does is it actually is like a platform as a service. So, you know, it'll write little bits of code for you, and then it'll run them for you. And I guess it calls this artifacts. I haven't poked around with this enough, but it will have basically like short running applications that you can interact with. Now, those aren't persistent, and like you have to be a little sophisticated to figure out like, you know, storing data over time for when these ephemeral, like whatever, it's probably running containers and VMs like the rest of the world. But when these containers come and go, but that's just yet another usability thing is like, you could imagine they're like, hey, would you like to save your storage? And then you have that, right? Like, and all of that kind of rigging up stuff in the background happens. And then you get to the point where you really can't, you know, it's totally possible to just sort of like, you know, as you did, Nikki, you can imagine someone doing this for a line of business budgeting process that rolls up to some public company's crazy financial process, right? And the person's just talking to it, and then it runs, and eventually, and it converts their Excel spreadsheet into something else that's more useful, especially if there's like hosting built into it, and they don't even have to think about that.
Well, I wonder if we're not thinking about this a little bit wrong, because I agree with everything you say, right? People are able to write stuff that they don't understand. But when we're talking about, you know, a lot of these programs, there's a different risk profile. I think also we got to kind of think about the downstream of this, in which, yeah, we've got business, you know, domain experts and business users that are writing applications. If they become something prevalent, then it goes up to the IT team, and the IT team puts the spit and polish on it. But look at all the work that they took off the IT team to get that. They no longer had to go through and write all this crap. Now they've got a working prototype. They're not having to sit through these requirements meetings and say, no, I want the button here and I want it blue, right? No, this is what I want. It works. Now just make it secure and make it performant. You've taken a load off of the IT team to do that, and now they can spit and polish that thing up. And as far as like, you know, well, they're writing things they don't understand. That's not any, in my mind, it's not really any different than what we do every single day. People drive cars. How many people actually know how a car works? Very few, right? Now, I guess you could argue and say, yeah, but people aren't going out there and building cars without knowing how cars work. And that's true. But everyone in the, you know, we've got millions of people that drive cars, or they turn on a light switch, and most people really don't understand how electricity works. But it works, and they're able to do things with it. They run businesses off of things they don't understand. Little bit different, but I don't think it's all that far different. I think we've got kind of this hype cycle. We've got a little bit of hype fear coming in. Just let's wait and see what happens, man. I think we're going to see a growth of ideas. We're going to see an explosion of applications that are going to improve some people's lives, not everybody's. But then we're going to see some things like you said. You mentioned Lovable. You mentioned there's Base 44. Right? These applications that do come out that are changing people's lives, because now moms are able to go and write a, you know, family tracker that they always wanted, but there's never been a program out there that's worked for them.
Yeah. I think regardless, we're definitely going to see, and I think we're already starting to see generally an explosion of software. And maybe this is like I don't know. I felt like 10 years ago we were going to see like the digital revolution, or maybe it's even more than 10 years ago now, like the software eating the world. But now when everybody can potentially produce software, I think it might actually eat the world. I was listening to some podcasts over the break or whatever, and Cote, it might have been yours, where the App Store is already starting to see like a significant increase in like app submissions or something like that. Like I'm going to say like maybe an increase to like 25% or whatever. Or as things progress, like we'll see how many more iOS app submissions, or I guess Google has an equivalent of, you know, like their App Store submissions of new apps just being created because you're like, hey, I had an idea, I made this, like maybe it's good enough to like put on the App Store, see if anyone likes it. Like I don't know, like
For
that
sure.
type of thing. So yeah,
And good for Apple because it takes what, like $150 to get the license to put something up on the App Store for something that may not be bought. So
maybe that's the new business plan. Just
Apple's,
accept.
Apple's going to make even more money,
applications
with people doing AI. And then,
Yeah.
Look at AI even outside the development space, right? Google's got to be worried because people are no longer going to Google and asking for things. They're going to AI and asking them. Why? Because it not only finds you an answer, it explains where it got it. And it can tell you, look at things like Perplexity. Great research tool. Hey, this are the things I want to know about. It gives you all of that, but it gives you links. It takes you right there. It's not like Google where you say, how does this work? And then you've got to click through 95 things of bullshit just to find the one thing that actually gives you an answer.
Yeah, but and even then though, it's really, I mean, you changed how Google has worked, right? Because I feel like every time, and like maybe it's a setting, but every time I go to Google now, it's always like you have to like scroll past the AI generated result
Right.
first to even get to the actual results. And most time, I think you like read the AI generated result, and you're like, you're good. Like like maybe you're like, I don't think so. Like I think that's wrong. You're like, yeah, it's not quite right. But then you like look at some of the resources. It's gotten so much better. But then I guess maybe it's just generational thing. I think the younger people are just going like to Chat GPT and like they don't even like go to Google anymore. So I don't know. Like, yeah. Who knows?
A milk sandwiches chat. I don't know what.
Ryan, I don't get the reference. I'm sorry.
I just want to put this out there because I want everybody else to be as confused as I am. Well, I mean, and this will make Cote happy. I actually started playing D&D because of the last conversation we had about your app. Now we're going to wait and see, if I don't have enough nerd stuff to do on my plate, now I'm going to add D&D to it.
Oh, well, you have to exchange notes because I've been, I mean, not to go on too about it. Like I've been trying to rethink how I do it because it's been a little boring. I don't know if it's the content or it's the tool, but it'd be good to know someone else's exploration notes. And to point out something you two have been saying a lot, right? Like it's here's one example that kind of like there's a notion here of like this is additive to what we have. It introduces more, not just like destructively the same, whatever that means. But like thinking of the App Store, there's a couple of apps that I use that have whatever that universal UI toolkit that people use if they want to make an Android app and an Apple app is, and it just looks like dog crap, basically. But they don't have time or the will to code both apps, and that's a good example where like you could add something by saying, as like you were saying, Nikki, just like I don't want to make a UI for Android, just make an Android native one that looks good, or like make an Apple native UI for this that looks good and just wire it up. And that kind of thing would be great for like multiplying these UIs across those platforms. It like adds something nice that I think is still fine for humans' existence. Like it's not destructive. And then again, like the figuring out writing applications for little gameplay stuff here and there. It's another nice additive thing for that. That's all I got. Snow and sandwiches and milk.
Yep.
We get the reference now. Thanks, Ryan. But yes,
there's this stat that I love that 88, and I think it came from, I don't remember who it came from, but I've memorized the stat. So 84% of developers are using AI, but 46% of them actively distrust the output of it. And that blows my mind that here's a tool that, basically everybody's using, but half of the people using it don't trust it. I mean, that's akin to saying, I don't trust Nick to pack my parachute, but let's go jump out of a plane, right?
Well, to be fair, I wouldn't trust myself to pack a parachute for myself. So that's
but I think that stat's very telling about the whether you want to call it intrusion or the prevalence of AI. Everybody's out there using it. You got a lot of people out there saying, but we don't trust it, but you're using it anyway. So, I won't say AI itself is not a relatively new technology, but the use of it, the prevalence of it, and how people are using it, that is new. And it's only going to get better, like every technology does. So yeah, we go back to the predictions. I think that, me personally, AI is here. It's going to stay. Now it's just weeding out who's best, and maybe the Claude-Pilled starting to show some of that. I don't know. But AI is not only going to be in the enterprise, it's going to be in our personal lives. I mean, look at Apple. They're absolutely dying right now because their AI assistant sucks so bad, and they're scrambling to try to figure out. I think they're even talking to Claude about, being the new Siri, but that's how prevalent it is.
Signed a deal with Google to
Did
license.
they? Was it Gemini?
Yeah.
Okay.
A Gemini version for Siri. So.
But I mean, there you go. Yeah. It's fixing to be in everybody's hands. Everybody's going to be using it. With great responsibility comes great power.
Yeah. But I think too, like even if you look at Claude-Code, they recently released support where you can wire in Olama directly to it, and people are starting to test like air-gapped Claude-Code use. And I think that's becoming more and more reality of maybe like, and we talk about that, as models are constantly getting released and like the benchmarks are becoming like, I don't even know, like, yeah, it's better. It's 30% better on the SWE bench. Like, oh, what does that mean? Right. Maybe the models all become good enough and it's more focused on that front end stack of the I guess what do we call them, like that? I guess the user experience, but it's really more of the agentic apps that talk to all the LLMs, and maybe it's the Claude-Code, or like you got open code, you got all these different Goose, all of these, whatever. They're not, I don't know what they call them. I guess there's probably an industry term now, but that agentic interface, and you can swap the models out on the back end, and you start to line up now for the enterprise where like, yes, like you want maybe like a Goose and like, stuff on Tanzu platform is an interesting solution where it's all air gapped, or maybe even maybe they'll open up Claude-Code to like just generic OpenAI compatible models, and they can hook up Claude-Code to all these GPUs I have in my basement. That'd be pretty sweet. Well, and save some money in terms of processing power.
Here's a good my one of my co-hosts, Brandon, on one of my podcasts, Software Defined Talk, is always doing this to me. We'll do a good test here of everything we talked about. Now, Nick, in your laboratory there, do you do this yet, or will you do it? Like, I know over the past year y'all have had this on the show. We got all sorts of MCP servers and other stuff to like manage Cloud Foundry. Now, do you think you'll just be managing your lab through a chat interface? Like, would you trust? Are you this? What was it? 48? Is that 48% not trustworthy? Where you just like, you're going to stop doing whatever it is you're doing, and you're just going to type on the thing, and you're just going to say like, all right, do it.
Oh, pure vibes. Like,
yeah.
No, but I have my list of like side things that I want to build is like growing like every minute. I think, and I really want to get more into like have it build a lot of automation for me.
Oh, right. So that's close.
So yeah. So like, it's not necessarily human, like typing. It's more like write all these things that like, all right, take the platform automation toolkit and then like look at my environment and like update all the like do all that, like, because that's like copy pasta all the variables in the right place so that I can make that a real pipeline.
That's something you would do yourself if you needed to, right? Like, yes, you would have to write that stuff.
It could be like starting from scratch and like building everything, like building all the pipelines, everything could be a tedious time, but like I think I would be like probably write a blog about and document the process.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's interesting. That's a good angle.
The platform automation toolkit that I should have implemented and haven't in my home lab, because it was just like when I started, I was like, yeah, it's a home lab, whatever. I'll just manually install some stuff. But now it's like, I got a lot of stuff going on in here. I need to like implement some common auth solution. I got I really need like pipelines and things. It's gotten to a point where like doing a lot of manual work that I've automated before in a past life. I just haven't done that yet.
So that's a good example. And then it also seems like, especially in the Cloud Foundry world, everyone's always I don't know if they are, but people historically complain about like Bosch or something, and it seems like maybe. Well, one, I've always wanted to go actually like try to learn it to see what the problem is that people keep gnashing their teeth about. But two, like I mean, I guess as with anything, whether it's like Bosch or even doing Kubernetes stuff or like low level
Mhm.
from an application developer's perspective, low level system configuration, like if you can just like have the AI help you code it, maybe it doesn't matter, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe it's perfectly fine. So I mean, that would be another fun test, is just like add some new thing that requires like all sorts of like Bosch coding and see
Well,
if like see how that goes for you.
yeah. Well, I'm already on. I'm already. So before I got the Claude subscription, I got Cursor, and then I actually then got Goose running against one of my local models, and like the test, I told Cursor and Goose, because I run all these GPUs in in my environment, and I need to power limit them, otherwise bad things happen to my my electricity bills and or UPS situation. So like I'll go in and like manually run some NVIDIA SMI commands to pull the power usage down on the card, so I don't like blow up my house.
Mm.
Now I was like, and every time like AI services tile deploys, it like overwrites that because I'm just like typing in paint, or anytime that those VMs reboot, it loses that setting. So I'm like, I know I could fix that. I could fix that with a Bosch add-on, where like I could take this script and then like add it on to all those VMs in that deployment. So I'm like, hey, Cursor, hey, Goose, and I'm like, I want you to write a Bosch add-on that applies this script.
Oh yeah,
Boom, done. Boom, done. They both one-shotted it, and like I was like, so I'm just like, I got all these little things that like I know I can do, I just don't have the time. And even with Goose on my Tanzu AI situation on Quinn, like now an ancient, like a 6-month-old model, that throw that thing away, like that still like one-shotted it. And it was like slightly different than what Cursor did, and I had no idea what model Cursor used. I was just like, I just signed up and I was like, I don't know, whatever. Like, here you go, like just do something, and it did something, and it worked. So
you are doing
yes,
this,
I
platform engineering stuff with like heavily basically through AI generation, AI code generation stuff, doing it, which is and then it helps you control your energy costs, which we can all get behind that. That's fantastic.
Well, there's another use case, Cote. You're talking about, let's take Bosch, for example. People don't understand how to use it. AI can be a great virtual teacher, because you can have AI tell you what the commands are, why it ran it, and what it's happening, right? So we've got a great story at Cote, our community manager. He runs Discord, but he's traveling all the time. He used AI to write this little bot for him that would let him know through Slack that here's a new Discord user. It would generate a response, send the response after he approved it. The outcome of that, not a developer at all, right? But the outcome of that is that he not only had it build the bot, but he went through and he learned what it was doing. Now the guy wants to jump into Linux classes. He wants to jump into, more development classes, because it got him interested. But he's got this virtual teacher that's there on his time, whenever he wants it, that he can ask questions through, get answers for. So it's like, YouTube became the greatest DIY library in history, because if you wanted to do something, you can go watch a video. Well, now we've got AI, which not only can we get links to videos, but we can also have it explain to us why it's doing the things that it's doing. It can help us learn these things.
Yeah. And then, so how about in that first area I was asking about, where like you instead of let's see, instead of like going into like apps, ops manager, or hub, or all these things, you just go to the chat window. Like how is that panning out in the Cloud Foundry platform world, Tanzu platform world?
I mean, so we've definitely seen some of that with some of the stuff that Corby's been doing, where it's like the CF MCP client, where you can just have it say, all right, like write this app for me, and then now it, like, that MCP client is plugged into whatever your agentic coder thing of choice, and then like, okay, now go push it to like my Cloud Foundry, and like they'll do that just fine. You can like, what is it running, like get the logs, and like no problem there. And some of our colleagues are starting to do that with Bosch MCP plugins as well, where you can have it speak Bosch to you, or speak English, and I'll start running a bunch of doing a bunch of things in Bosch. I haven't gone that far yet, just because I don't know. I think that may be the next thing of like, all right, now take this this Bosch add-on that I had, and I'll go apply it to these foundations. But I'm kind of more like I need to get some pipelines automated so it'll be easier for it to
Right,
to
right.
pick up.
I mean, you
Like
got
go
you
go
have
commit this to this repo so then it can get picked up by this other thing. Like
you've got other fish to fry, so to
Yeah.
speak. And it also
Yeah.
seems like, someone in your position, in a good way, also like you just intuitively know how to do all this stuff. Like in the interface or on the command line when it comes to like administering things. So you're kind of like, why would I learn a new way to do it? But maybe I'll make a specific example. I mean, I don't know what a problem would be, but let's say one of your users has notified you there's a problem, like something's wrong, and normally you would go diagnose it however you would do it. But would you feel comfortable just opening up the chat window and being like, I was told the following is a problem. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, that'd be interesting. Or like,
and then
go
if it said,
go
and then
fetch
if
me
it-
logs.
right. And then if it said, okay,
right?
here's the problem, would you be comfortable saying like, all right, fix it? And then would you like go get lunch?
I don't
I'm
know.
getting
I don't know,
there.
Yeah.
I'm getting there. Now, I think that segues perfectly into
Yeah.
something that Keith brought up about the discussion point where senior dev knows when generated code's not right. I think that goes across AI. I think the scary part for people that are using AI is that AI has all of the ability and then some. They've got all of this knowledge. They have all of this ability to go out and do basically anything you want it to do. What it doesn't have is the experience and the know-how to say, well, hold on, that's not right. Or let's stop doing this and let's go find a different way, because AI is like a puppy dog, man. It just wants to make you happy. It's going to do whatever it has to do to make you happy. We've seen the news stories where it deleted a database, right? A production database. But it has this ability. It has all the knowledge of you and some of your coworkers, but it doesn't have that experience to say, hold on, slow down, right? Let's go back and look at this another way. And I think that's what scares most people about AI.
Yeah. Right. There's one of the most, it could be valuable, but done too frequently, extremely annoying. But, senior IT people, often they're asked to help do something. And sometimes the first answer they give is like, why do you want to do that? And whenever I get that response, I'm like, this conversation's over. But that can be helpful, and more maybe doing it in a smoother, more diplomatic way. You're always told you should ask people what it is they're trying to accomplish before being prescriptive with them. But it's exactly what you're saying, Nikki, where you're trying to find out, are you making assumptions about the solution you don't yet know that's guiding you to think about the wrong way of solving the problem? And I think building that in, that takes a lot of, as it takes with humans, that takes a lot of work to get like AIs to kind of be like that. Like, I've had minor success here and there, not for technical stuff, but using it for writing, where it'll be like, you shouldn't do that. Like, that's a bad idea. But
I've got prompts that I have AI debate with me with some of my prompts to say, hey, here's my idea. What am I not thinking about? Point out some things. Tell me where I'm being dumb. And it's surprisingly good at telling me how I'm being dumb. It really is.
And no, exactly. And again, in this area of like writing, and I don't know how it would work with more complicated technical stuff, but it takes not only on the user's part, but it takes on the user's part the knowledge, the will, and the know-how to basically give the experience to the AI that you're using. Give that instruction of like, I don't want you to just say yes to everything, and here's how to think about like pushing back more, right? And I don't know what that looks like when you're like trying to figure out, adding a new database type or diagnosing something in a platform, but that probably is a layer that isn't quite like, I don't know if I've ever done any like auto coding where it's like, why are you writing this app? That's a terrible idea.
Yep.
Right? Like, don't you have better things to be doing?
Yeah. I think maybe more like the thing I can think of on the fly is that like, all right, like I need something to like go into all of these VMs and go to these certain log files and look for like stack traces.
Yeah.
Right. So you can say like okay, something's wrong. All right, ops agent thingy, whatever we call it, like go run the stack trace play, like go hunt for stack traces. Let me see if you find anything. Cause I know, like I guess like when troubleshooting the AI services tile, like a lot of people get into it and they're like, they have something misconfigured. on like one of their models or like something like I don't know, something in like the configuration, and it causes like a or some random thing. You're like, all right, you'll like look for stack, like what find me a stack trace, and then like read the stack trace and figure out like where it's coming from, like that type of thing. That could help out.
Well, that's looking forward in calendar year 2026, Nick. That's a good test of trust, is if you would be comfortable saying like, go find me this in the logs, right? Because there is, like I think one of the most common enterprise use cases for AI is what I would think of as just like better search. Like it's not like you load up all the data and whatever the data source thing for AIs is that the kids use nowadays, and you're just like, find me the stuff, right? Like what are whatever it may be, right? And even like write a report that's going over this stuff. But essentially, you're just searching through information, and the risk there, especially so when you're looking at logs and you're troubleshooting something. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I would assume the log shouldn't be modified, right? Like you should see the log as it was emitted from the thing. And so there's a huge amount of trust. I mean, you go to something that is built to be a text manipulator, right? And you're asking it to look around and return text to you unmodified. Now, I mean, as an example, right? I've been generating a bunch of images for some marketing stuff. And even in that case, if you're like, don't change this part of the image, don't change this part of the image. And it's like, hey, look, I changed this part of the image.
Yeah. And you're like, no, like I got to throw it away now. It's garbage.
Right. And so now, so there's two parts of this. One, if you just like straight up went and asked it to gather logs for you, like if you would trust it. Now, two, you can have more control, and you basically are having it like build applications and, run scripts and do things for you. Right. And so like, when you see these more agentic things, like it's like, oh, I'm going to go write this script now. No, now I need to, do head 40 to find like the top 40 things. And it's actually like, it's not so much like ingesting text and then outputting the text. It's actually running commands and, catting things together and stuff like that. Yeah. And that should be more trustworthy, but still, right? Like that. Well, that's a good low bar for like how much you trust it. Of just like, I want you to gather the logs for me, and I'm not going to go verify that you did it correctly. Like I trust that you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that would be my goal for this year, is to get that level of trust. Like, because there are Bosch MCP plugins, and I was like, we had some conversations with some colleagues about maybe even turning them on in some of my foundations. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for that yet, because that endpoint, one, if you expose it on the internet, bad, and then two, like, how do we know like this thing's gonna get like full admin access to like these environments? And like I don't want to. I sensed a problem, so I deleted all the VMs situation. So that's something that we could maybe strive for in the platform ops world of 2026.
Yeah, it's a good point.
This has been a great conversation. This hour went by way faster than I wanted to. Unfortunately, I do have to drop. You guys keep going, but work calls, but wonderful conversation. So much more we could say. I think we need to do a follow-up to this, because I don't even think we scratched the surface of what's going to happen in 2026. Yeah,
we need a film where Nick is basically like, upgrade my lab, and then we just watch and see what happens.
From the beach.
Till next week, guys. Y'all have fun.
All right. See you, Nicky.
So long.
And then I guess we'll probably start wrapping up here. Shout out to DMZ for his comments. Trust is key, and blocking CPU with no apps. But word from our sponsors. You should like and subscribe if you like what you're seeing here. You can check us out always at cloudfounderweekly.com, podcast format, and your favorite podcast players. And I don't know, do you have anything else, Cote? Or we could ramble on for quite some time. Can you hear me? No? Maybe we're having some audio issues. Okay, well, I guess with that, I don't know if you can hear me or not. Or maybe we had some issue when Nicky left the stream. We'll probably call it for today. Thanks for watching. Let's see the comments. Okay, we can hear you. Okay. All right. So maybe we had some issues with Cote, but Cote, thanks for being on. thanks for everyone on the live chat. Great to see you all, and great way to kick off 2026. And I guess we'll close out here with a CF bye. CF bye.